Hi, I'm Adam.
And I'm Kara, and welcome back to Crunchy Cozy Games. Today, we have a video for you about gateway games.
Yeah, so last time we did a video about classic games that we recommended crunchier alternatives to. And this is going to be a list of games that when somebody is like, well, I don't play a lot of games like you do, games that we recommend to kind of get them started into that world.
Yeah, something that has, like you think about like a zero entry pool, right? Like this is really going to ease them into it. We've got kind of a variety of levels of crunch and honestly a variety of price points if it's something that you want to recommend people go pick up.
Right.
Some as we know in the hobby, many board games can get rather pricey, and these ones are all under $60.
And for the most part, they are all readily available. I mean, you
Yes.
can get them at just about any board game store, but of course, you can also get them on Amazon, and even like Target, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart tend to carry a lot of these titles.
It's true.
So why don't we dive right in?
Yeah, so the first one I want to talk about is really a classic when you think about board games, and that is Splendor.
Ooh.
We recently brought this to the table again.
Yeah, for, again, a group of friends that play games, but they're not as crunchy as we are.
Sure. And this is one I truly love the tactile experience of this game.
Sure.
I love the gem tokens. They're like those heavyweight poker chips. It's about the size they are. And they're so satisfying to stack, and when you like pick up and you have your collection of them. This is a game that has kind of that store mechanic where your board is not really a board. You're laying out a kind of a 3-tiered store of cards that are available. The cards are various levels of like cost when you think about the gems that you're collecting. And so as you're taking a turn, you're either going to take gems or purchase a card.
Right.
Or reserve a card.
Right.
And then get a wild gem, which is a gold piece instead of one of the gemstones. And the game is scalable depending on how many players you have. But the turns are pretty snappy. The game is fairly intuitive and easy to teach. I think that's something else. You can pick it up pretty quickly.
Right. Yeah, this is a game where, I mean, basically your turn consists of either picking up 3 gems of different colors, 2 gems of the same color, playing a card or taking a card, or reserving one and picking up the wild gem.
And, you're trying to get sets of multiples because as you collect gems and purchase them, those become available to you. They're evergreen. So if something else costs 2 green gems, you can pay 2 chips and then you have a green in your hand.
Right.
So and you're trying to get the noble patrons to patronize your shop, as it were.
Yeah, the rich folk.
Yes, by collecting series. So, one might want you to have 3 diamonds and 3 sapphires.
Yeah.
And then you get to take that card.
This is a great one, and I really enjoy it as well. I will say that the thing that always turned me off to it when we saw it before was just like this up the front. I thought this was like some sort of thieving game.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't show a lot just from the front.
Well, and the theme itself is kind of arbitrary. I mean, this game also comes in, I think there's a Pokemon theme.
Yeah.
And one that has always caught my eye. We're probably not going to get it because we have this one, but they have the Infinity Gauntlet. There's a Marvel version of it.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is really fitting with all the gemstone things.
Well, speaking of Marvel, that brings me to my first gateway recommendation. This is a cooperative game, Marvel United.
Yes.
So this is another one that I actually was a little skeptical on. I wasn't too sure about the chibi Marvel style heroes, and again, it being a cooperative game, sometimes those are pretty fiddly.
Yeah.
But this one is actually very fun, and it's a great entry point for a lot of board gamers. What's nice about this is your turn is very simplistic. You're going to play cards from your hand. Generally, you play 2 different cards, and those have different action icons on them. You can either move, you can do something heroic, like maybe one of your superhero moves, or rescue a civilian, or you can smash. And then there's also a wild card sort of action that you can take, which is you get to choose one of those three things to do. That's really simple. It's very simple to figure out what to do on your turn, but then what's really cool about it and where the cooperative nature comes into play is the next player gets to take their actions, but they also get the last action of the person that played before them.
That's true.
So I think that's really fun. It comes with a lot of the great Marvel heroes in the box. Like this one's got Captain America and Black Widow and Hulk and Iron Man and just basically all of your favorites. There's tons of expansions that you can get if you like it. Now, it being accessible does not mean that it's easy.
True. We lost the first time we played it.
Yeah, we lost to the Red Skull, which is the one that they recommend starting with for new players.
Right.
But it's also one that we came away with going like, we should do this again.
Like, I think we can do it.
Right.
I also will say one thing that I really enjoyed about this one is that the layout of the game itself on the table becomes very striking because, like you said, as you're taking your turn, you're using your cards and also the cards of the person before you.
Right.
And so the way that you play, you're not playing into your personal discard pile like with a lot of games. You're playing it around the game board in this kind of like clock.
Exactly.
So you're like counting down the turns, and it ends up looking so cool.
Yeah, on your turn, when
it.
you play your card, it goes in that big circle, that timeline.
Yeah.
And then what's really cool about it is when they amp up the difficulty. So typically the villain moves after every third hero action. And then when you make it more difficult, when you get closer to finishing it, it becomes after every second hero action. So it really has a nice way of upping the intensity that way.
It's a very, very fun game.
Yeah, I love it a lot. It's a great cooperative game to get started with, and it's a theme that I think most people would be into.
Yeah.
Marvel United.
Awesome. This next game is a 2-player game, and that is Land vs. Sea.
I love this one.
This is definitely a favorite of ours.
Yeah.
It is one that, if we're just looking for something quick to play, it's kind of late, but we're not quite ready to, turn in for the night, but we don't want to play out something that's going to be long. This is a great one for us to end the night. And in this one, it's so simple. There's not a lot of setup to it. You clear out your space.
Yeah, you're building the board as you go.
Yeah. There's a centerpiece, and you go. You draw your 2 tiles from the pool. Each person gets 2 tiles. They are double-sided, so you can play either side. You keep one side secret, and the other side is visible to the other person. And you are playing either as the land or the sea.
Right.
And you're trying to essentially enclose your space. And so the tiles have, they're hex tiles, and so they have different setups of land space and shore and sea space on there. And yeah, each time you enclose an area where there's nowhere else it can go, you count up your points for that.
Right.
And, you can get it. There are some extra points that are available for the secret treasure X's.
Right.
And there's either the whirlpool or the volcano if you can enclose either all land or all sea sides.
It's tricky.
It can be really tricky, but the game concept in and of itself is very simple, very easy to pick up, and it's pretty forgiving.
Yeah,
honestly.
it's a beautiful game too. I mean, I love the art style in it. It looks like one of those old-timey maps. And just like Kara said, I mean, it is one of those games that is deceptively simple to learn, but every time we play it, I'm coming up with a different strategy to either make smaller islands or smaller lakes to score more points earlier on.
Yeah.
I love it.
And if this one is one, we actually do have a time-lapse video of us playing this if you're curious what it looks like. Yeah,
it's very fun to watch.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, my next one is a game I know you don't really like, but I still think it's a great entry-level game, and that's Dominion. I suspect a lot of people may have seen this game or have probably played this game, but this is sort of credited as being the original deck builder. Even though I don't know that it is.
Yeah, I think what's nice about this, as far as like a gateway game or an entry level game, is that it is just pure deck building.
Right.
And that is the thing that I personally, as somebody that plays a lot of board games, I don't particularly love that about it. I wish there was something else. But if that is a a game mechanic that you're learning for the first time, having it in isolation is great.
Yeah, I've definitely played a lot of games of this where it becomes just a race to buy the points cards. Because everybody's kind of hit the point where they like their deck, and now it's just, okay, well, until the game ends, I need to buy as many point cards as I can. And I definitely understand that criticism. But I think just as far as like this being a pure, simple game, it's really easy to knock out a game of Dominion or a couple of them.
Absolutely.
For a game night, because it's a really simple concept. You drop your hand of cards. If you've got currency in there, you can use that to buy new cards. There's a market of 10 that you decide on before the game starts. And you basically play until 3 of the decks are depleted. It's that simple. I mean, if you've got currency in your hand, you use that to buy cards. If you don't, you use action cards or anything else that you might have in your hand to try and give you an upper edge. Most of those action cards are giving you more money so that you can buy more cards. It sounds ridiculous because, well, quite frankly, it's just a game of the numbers going up. But as a gamer, I really enjoy numbers going up.
Sure, yeah. And, you know, I do think that some of the action cards are really fun, and some of the interactions that you can have with other players are, like, it's enjoyable, and and it's pretty snappy.
There are definitely some cards that I mean, in larger quantities, they can get annoying. Like when everybody has a militia and you're discarding cards, it can be a little frustrating. My personal favorite is the Witch, which throws curse cards in everybody's deck, which are negative points. But it is just kind of an enjoyable game that's very easy to learn and quick to play.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
great pick.
Dominion.
Awesome. This next one is one of my favorite styles of game.
Sure.
I really love the polyomino kind of tile laying games, and Barren Park is one of the simpler ones that we have.
Delightful.
And it is delightful. You're making a little bear zoo. A bear park, as it were. But this game is so simple. On your turn, you are either playing a tile, or if you don't have any tiles, picking up a tile.
Yep, that's it.
And that's pretty much it. And, you know, you can get into like the complexities of it. You start with one grid for your player board, and as you fill that one up, you have the opportunity to add you get up to 4 play mats, and you can put them in any grouping that you want. You could make a big square, you can make a line, however you want to arrange it. And as you cover up different icons on the board, you can unlock cooler tiles or like larger polyomino pieces with specific bears. Like you might want a polar bear enclosure, or what about the cute sun bears?
You also need porta potties.
Right. So
very important to theme park planning.
So I think that this game is just a very simple, accessible polyomino that doesn't really have a lot of it doesn't have a lot that like mucks it up. You know what I mean?
I totally agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, great game.
So it is a great fun polyomino game.
Yeah, and the art is very cute in it.
It's so cute. Yeah.
Love it. Great choice. Okay, another very pretty puzzly game is one of our favorites, and that is Azul.
Just the classic.
Just the classic Azul. This was actually one of the first board games that we started our collection with.
Absolutely.
And I will admit that the puzzle is something you got to read the rule book for, because on the first read, I think it's a little confusing for people to be like, okay, so now I move it over? Well, no, you have to fill out the line first, but once you do that, then you can move it over, and this one's fine. Just play it, you'll understand it. This is one that I think a good gamer takes their friends kind of through the first round and says, okay, that was a great first round, let's wipe the tiles, let's play it for real now. Because once you get the hang of this, I think the puzzle in this is just so delightful.
And it's so satisfying
as
well.
I love the different color of the tiles. I love how you track everything. But honestly, my favorite mechanism in the entire game is the market. and figuring out, when it makes most sense to take the tiles from the different shops and when it makes sense to take the tiles from the middle.
Yeah, take that negative hit to be the first one to pull from the middle.
Right. This can definitely be a mean game. You can definitely stick players with a lot of tiles they can't use on their bottom line. Yeah. But I think clever play and understanding the game kind of avoids that too. But this is one of my favorite, just pure puzzle, very little player interaction, but very enjoyable all throughout.
Yeah, I mean, we have a great time every time we play this game.
Yep, it's terrific. Azul.
Yeah. This next one is probably going to be a familiar title to many, and this is Ticket to Ride.
Oh, yeah. I think this one is kind of journeying into the territory of like the Monopolies and the Saris of like, this is a good classic family game that just about anybody that collects board games is going to have in their collection somewhere.
Have one of the versions at least.
I mean, there's a kid's version. There's, just about every country's version. There's the new Legacy version, which I really want to try.
Yeah. The basic concept of this is you have a map that has a bunch of cities, and then there are trails, paths between them, tracks, I guess, since it's railroads, tracks between them that are specific colors, and you are collecting cards that have different color train cars. You're also collecting tickets, which are objectives. So, if you want to get from New York to Los Angeles, you are trying to look at that board and seeing which cities you need to connect with those color trains to get those. Your tickets are worth points, which is how you score to win the game. And, as you play, like there's a store of, is it 4?
I don't remember.
There's a number of visible trains. It's been a minute since we've played this one. There's a number of visible trains. You can also just draw from the top of the deck.
Right.
And you can either take cards or you can play a train, play a track. And so you discard the number of trains that matches the number of spaces of that track. And then you get points for the number of trains that are in that segment as well.
Well, and it's an increasing scale. So 2 is only 2 points, but then 3 is 4, and it just keeps going up.
Exactly. And then that's not counting the bonus that you get for actually completing your ticket.
Right.
So it's one that can play pretty quickly, but it's also it can be kind of thinky.
Yeah. And it's another one that can also sometimes get a little mean.
Sure.
Because you can block somebody from a path that they were taking and make them take the long way around.
Yep.
But it is a very enjoyable game. And at the end of the day, trains are cool. So lots of people love it.
Yeah. Ticket to Ride.
Okay. I think I'm going to do 2 in a row here, starting with Quacks. Quacks has been one of our favorites for new people coming to board games.
Quacks. Yes.
Quacks is a game where, at least personally, I don't care so much about winning because it's more about just how ridiculous the game is.
Well, and the drama.
Right. Oh, it's a push your luck game where each player is essentially playing some weird potion makers selling their goods at this street fair.
You are a quack.
Yeah, exactly. And so you are throwing your ingredients into your bag, and then you're shaking up the bag, pulling the ingredients out, and then looking at the number on them and moving them that many spaces on your pot. There's kind of a bad ingredient, a white ingredient, that if you get up to the numerical value of 7 on there, your potion explodes and you bust. But that is kind of part of the fun with it.
It is.
Because basically, I love the theme of this. If you're just reaching into your bag and tossing it into the pot and then seeing what happens.
Yep.
This is a game that's played over 9 rounds, which I think is just long enough. I mean, it never feels like it's overstaying its welcome.
Right.
It never feels like you're even wanting to go like, I wish there's just one more round.
Yeah.
When it wraps up, it's the perfect length.
Yeah, I feel like in many of the games that we've played, by the last round, there's somebody that is able to get to the either to the very last number, the last space on the board, or almost there.
Right.
You get all the way to that last loop of it, because it is like a spiral that goes out from the center.
Well, and one of the aspects of this game that I really love, that I think makes it very friendly for new players, is kind of the catch-up mechanic.
Oh, yeah.
Of if you're behind in points, you've got these rat tails that are all, or you've got these rats that have tails all around the board. And when you count up how many rat tails are between the leading player and you, and that's how many spaces you get to start ahead on the potion board.
Yeah.
It's a really nice way of kind of pushing people to kind of take a chance or take a risk, because you can kind of gamify it a little bit. You know how many ingredients are in your bag, you know what's going to be left in there, so you know, you kind of gamify the odds of going, okay, I've got a 1 in 4 chance to bust right now, is it worth it to push on? But this game is very silly. It's very funny too. So I highly recommend it to just about anybody that is interested in getting their collection started.
Yeah, absolutely.
Quacks of Quedlinburg. So the next one I'm very excited about is not one that we've actually discussed on this channel because it's been a minute since we've played it.
Yeah.
But it is one of my favorite games of all time. We got a lot of flack in our last video for recommending Twilight Imperium because it's such a crunchy game.
It is.
And that's
I agree.
Totally fair.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you still like Risk, you like Risk. I also would give you Cosmic Encounter. And this copy is incredibly heavy because we've got 4 or 5 expansions in there, including all the extra players. Cosmic Encounter is a really kind of unique game in that it's sort of like Risk in that you're trying to conquer other players' territories.
It is.
But it's totally different in that you don't choose which player you're going after.
Yes, and I think that's the thing that makes this kind of an entry-level game.
Right.
Because it takes there's no opportunity to strategize in who you're gonna go after. The game makes that decision for you.
Yeah, I mean, really, the only strategy of this game is that you can decide on how many ships you're sending in, up to a maximum of 4.
Sure.
What's really cool about it, though, is that it's got a fun combat mechanism of each player has cards in their hand that has a numerical value on there. That numerical value is essentially your power plus your ships. So if you've got all low-ranked cards in your hand, you're probably not going to do pretty well at battling. Now, to that point, then you can bring in allies that will also give you their ship strength.
Right.
But both players reveal those cards at the same time. And so if I've got a 4 and you've got a 19, well, I'll be defeated and lose all my forces. But it's never a huge loss because they go to the warp and then you can eventually get those ships back.
Right.
The thing that I love about this is that sometimes you have a negotiation card in your hand.
Yes.
If both players hit negotiate, you can say like, hey, give me a colony on one of your planets and I'll give you XYZ. Anything is up for negotiation there. And yeah, so this is just, it's a fun conquest game. Plus, every single player is playing as a different alien faction that all has some sort of weird power.
Oh, and they're so wacky.
Yeah, there's one that, I mean, literally all you do is anytime you go to battle with somebody, you take their cards, you take your cards, you throw them in a pile, you mix them all up, and then you give them back. And so it's just like, if you had a great card in your hand, maybe now you don't. There's another alien that literally all they do is marry other players, and whenever they feel like it, they say, we're getting divorced, and they take half your stuff. It's completely ridiculous. It's very silly. This is a game you don't care about winning, but it is a blast every time.
Yeah.
I really would like to play this again very soon.
Yeah. Great. Cosmic Encounter. The last one that we're going to talk about is one, I would say it's kind of on the crunchier end of
It's
of
probably
at least,
the crunchiest of what we've talked about today.
Yeah. But you know, we kind of have to talk about it just because it is so ubiquitous now. It's kind of
Also, we didn't
everywhere.
mention it during the nature video, and that made us look like schmucks.
Yes. So we're talking about Wingspan. And I will point out that this is only a box lid.
It's very heavy.
The nesting box lives on the top of our shelves and is pretty heavy at this point.
Yeah.
So Wingspan is one of our favorite games.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a classic engine builder at this point.
Yeah, I would say so.
So in this game, you are creating an aviary. You're collecting birds, and attracting them with a variety of foods that they like. Putting them into habitats that they would exist in. There's a water path, a forest path, and a grassland plains, something like it's yellow, the grass.
It's just yellow.
So you're also collecting or laying eggs, and using those eggs to do other actions. And each of the birds has some sort of characteristic that allows you to do more things throughout the game.
Yeah.
And so some birds you might be able to get extra food when you activate that row of your engine.
And that's really the core of the game, is that you take these actions, you only have a few of them, but the more birds you add to that area of your board, the more that's going to give you whenever you take that action.
It's play a bird, get food, lay eggs, or draw birds.
Right.
So there's 4 things that you can do. And each time you do that, you do all of the things in that row that you have placed.
Except for the play a bird. That's the only one that you don't.
Right. Yeah. So this game is, Wingspan can be a little bit, it can be a lot to teach. The first time that you play it,
this is another game that I feel like the best way to teach it to somebody is to demo it.
Yeah, play open hand the first couple of rounds, and then kind of let people go. But being really transparent about the decisions that you're making and kind of explaining what you're doing, I agree. I think that's been really successful in teaching this to new people.
But yeah, this is a great choice. It is one of our favorite to the table, and it's one that I feel like new players are always very struck by the theme, and it's gorgeous artwork.
I think that's one of the things that makes it so striking, is that the artwork is just so incredible. And it is very elegantly designed as well.
Agreed. Yeah, this is one of our favorites. So yeah, that's our list of gateway games. But we'd like to hear from you. What are the games you recommend to people new to the board gaming hobby? What are the games that you first reach for when you go to your game table?
What was the first game in your collection that you think everybody else should have?
Absolutely. So this has been a Crunchy Cozy collection starter. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Bye.